If you search for business insurance online right now, there's a very good chance Next Insurance is everywhere. YouTube ads, Google search results, social media. They've done an incredible job marketing themselves as the fast, easy way to buy coverage. And honestly, for some businesses, they absolutely are. But after working with contractors and human service organizations for years, I've also seen the moment where a business outgrows that model completely. And most owners don't realize it's happening until they run into a serious insurance problem. So let's talk honestly about who Next Insurance is actually great for and who should probably think twice. In this video, I'll show you who Next Insurance is actually perfect for, the hidden coverage and service limitations most business owners don't notice until it's too late, and how to tell when your business has officially outgrown the online insurance model. But before we really get into Next Insurance specifically, think about those self checkout lanes at the grocery store. If you've got 5 items, they're amazing. You walk in, you scan your stuff, you swipe your card, you're out the door in 2 minutes. No waiting, no unnecessary interaction. It's simple. But have you ever watched somebody try to run an overflowing cart through self checkout? Now, suddenly there's produce codes and price checks and coupons not available, employee overrides, the machine starts yelling at them, and everyone's frustrated. And eventually, an employee basically has to come over and do half the transaction anyway. The system itself isn't bad. It just wasn't really designed for that level of complexity. And honestly, online business insurance works a lot like that. If you're a simple business with simple risks, something like Next Insurance can be incredibly convenient. But as the business grows, there's more employees and vehicles and contracts and more specialized risks. Eventually, some owners realize they're standing at the insurance version of self checkout with an overflowing cart. The next reason insurance grew so fast is actually pretty simple. They solved a real frustration in commercial insurance. For a long time, buying business insurance felt slow and confusing and honestly kind of intimidating for small business owners. You'd call an office and leave a voicemail, wait for callbacks, fill out long applications, then sit around for days waiting for pricing. And meanwhile, every other part of modern life was moving in the opposite direction. You can order groceries on your phone, open a bank account online in minutes, get an Uber instantly. Consumers got so trained to expect speed and convenience everywhere. So eventually, small business owners started asking, why does business insurance still feel like buying a fax machine in 1997? And that's the gap companies like Next Insurance stepped into. They build a platform that feels modern and with fast quotes and easy applications and online purchasing, simple dashboards and fast certificates and minimal friction. Honestly, their marketing around this has been very effective. If you're a contractor or small business owner, you've probably seen their ads all over YouTube or Google. Their messaging is very clearly aimed at a very specific type of buyer. The owner who's saying, I don't want to spend 3 weeks talking to insurance people. I just need coverage so I can get back to work. And for a lot of businesses, that is completely reasonable, especially if you're a one person contractor, handyman, or a small landscaping company or a small startup just trying to get insurance quickly so you can start operating. That's really the sweet spot for a company like Next. Now, one thing I do want to say to be fair here is this is not some tiny startup experiment anymore. A few years ago, I think people looked at online insurance companies and wondered whether they were really legitimate long term players. That concern matters a lot less today. Next was acquired by Munich Re's Ergo Group, which is one of the largest insurance organizations in the world, and their financial strength ratings are very strong now. So, in my opinion, the real question is really not, is this company legitimate? The better question is this the right insurance model for my business? Because honestly, for some businesses, buying insurance online like this makes complete sense. Now, here's the part that a lot of people online don't clearly say enough. For certain businesses, I think Next Insurance is a perfectly good option. If you're a very small business with uncomplicated insurance needs, the convenience can absolutely outweigh the downsides. And when I say small, I'm usually talking about businesses that are still relatively simple operationally. Maybe like a solo contractor or or single person landscaping business or one or two person plumbing operation. Honestly, one rule of thumb I've seen over the years is if you're spending less than about $5,000 a year on insurance premiums, there's a decent chance you may be perfectly happy with a self service online insurance model. Because at that stage, there usually aren't that many moving parts yet. You probably don't have dozens of employees or a complicated vehicle schedule or a lot of subcontractors or a lot of highly negotiated contracts or unusual liability exposures. Your needs are still relatively straightforward. And this is where Next genuinely does some things very well. The quote process is fast and the buying process is fast. The platform is easy to use. And one of the biggest advantages, especially for contractors, is how quickly you can handle insurance paperwork. Because if you've worked construction jobs before, you already know how annoying certificates of insurance can become. A GC asks for additional insured wording, waiver of subrogation, and primary non contributory wording and updated certificates, and they usually want it immediately. Traditionally, that meant emailing your broker, waiting for someone in the office to process it, and waiting for it to get sent back. Platforms like Next streamline a lot of that. You can get insurance certificates online and request additional insureds and handle a lot of the routine paperwork yourself without waiting on someone else. And for small contractors trying to move fast, that's a legitimately valuable feature. Now, I also want to be fair about one other thing because people sometimes hear online insurance company and assume there are no humans involved. That's not really true. Next does have licensed advisors. They do have claim support. And once a claim gets open, they do assign claims people to help move the process along. So I'm not saying online insurance equals a scam because that's not true. The bigger issue is that most online reviews stop right there. Talk about how fast it is to buy the policy, but they really don't talk about what happens when the business itself starts getting more complicated. And this is the part that I think most business owners miss. Insurance complexity grows way faster than people expect. A lot of businesses start simple with one owner, one truck, and a couple tools, or maybe a small office or home base. At that stage, buying insurance online feels perfectly fine because honestly, it probably is. But then the business starts growing. Now you've got employees and multiple vehicles and payrolls increasing and subcontractors, bigger jobs, more expensive projects, and more liability exposures. And somewhere around that transition, my completely unscientific number is usually about $1 million in revenue. Owners start feeling something change psychologically. They stop thinking, I just need insurance, and they start thinking, I need to know I'm actually protected. That's a completely different mindset because once the business gets large enough, owners start realizing there are risks inside the company they don't fully understand anymore. And this is where insurance starts becoming less about convenience and more about interpretation. For example, contractors start running into contract requirements they've never seen before. And now the contract says primary non-contributory waiver of subrogation, CG 201, CG 2037, additional insured and completed operations. And the business owners sitting there thinking, I have absolutely no idea what any of this means. And here's the important thing: a clean certificate of insurance is not the same thing as a contract compliance. That's one of the biggest misconceptions small businesses have. Just because somebody issued you a certificate does not automatically mean your policy actually satisfies the contract language. Those are two completely different things. And this gets even more important once you move into specialized industries. For example, sometimes I'll talk to group homes or social service organizations that need very specific abuse and molestation coverage liability limits because of state contracts or funding requirements. That's not really a click three buttons online type of insurance problem anymore. Or maybe a contractor grows enough that now they have subcontractor exposure issues, complicated work comp audits, higher auto exposures, or professional liability concerns mixed into their operations. And this is where policy details start mattering a lot more than people realize. Things like exclusions or subcontractor requirements or prior work exclusions or professional service exclusions or coverage triggers or audit language. These are the kinds of things most small businesses never think about when they buy insurance online. Because honestly, when you're small, you usually don't have to think about them yet. But eventually, some businesses hit a point where they no longer just need a fast insurance transaction. They need somebody helping them interpret risk. And this leads into one of the biggest downsides of the online insurance model that a lot of people don't talk about. The issue usually isn't the technology itself, the issue is relationship depth. Because one of the trade offs with many online insurance platforms is that you often do not have a dedicated person who really knows your business over time. Instead, what commonly happens is you go into a service queue, you get the next available representative, you explain your issue, and then the next time you call, you may get somebody completely different. Now, to be clear, that does not automatically mean the service is bad, but it can become inconsistent. And inconsistency matters a lot once your business becomes more complicated because growing businesses usually don't just need somebody to process paperwork anymore. They start wanting guidance. For example, does this contract language look normal? Why did my workers' comp audit jump this much? Do I need higher umbrella limits now? How should I insure this new vehicle? Should this subcontractor be providing their own coverage? Is this claim going to impact my renewal? Those are advisory questions. And that's where a lot of owners start realizing they want a relationship with somebody who already understands their business, their industry, their contracts, their claims history, and their long term goals. Because the bigger the business gets, the more insurance stops being a commodity purchase. It becomes part of the operational strategy of the company. And this is especially true in industries with complicated compliance requirements. For example, in construction, one bad certificate insurance can hold up payment or delay a project. In human services, one misunderstanding about abuse coverage or professional liability limits can create major contract problems. So, at a certain point, many owners stop asking, how fast can I buy insurance? And they start asking, who's helping me make sure this actually is structured correctly? And honestly, that's the moment where businesses begin transitioning away from purely self service insurance platforms, not because the platform failed, but because the business itself evolved beyond what the model was really designed for. So, after all that, I think the real question is not, is next insurance good or bad? I think that it's the wrong way to look at it. The better question is my business still simple enough for a self-service insurance model? Because there are really two completely different types of insurance buyers. The first is what I'd call the simplicity buyer. They want speed, convenience, fast certificates, slow friction, easy online access. Their business is relatively straightforward and they don't have complicated contracts. Their exposures are simple. They're comfortable handling most things themselves. For that type of business owner, something like Next Insurance may honestly be a fantastic fit. But then there's the second type of buyer, and this is the business owner whose company is growing and becoming more operationally complex. Now they're dealing with larger contracts and more employees, multiple vehicles, subcontractor compliance, specialized liability exposures, workers' comp, audit concerns, and bigger financial consequences if something is structured incorrectly at that stage. The owner usually starts wanting something very different from their insurance relationship, not just help me buy insurance, but help me understand risk. And they want guidance, strategy, insight, contract interpretation, proactive plannings, somebody who already understands their industry. And honestly, most businesses start in the first category. Very few stay there forever. The transition usually happens gradually, which is why a lot of owners don't notice it happening in real time. The handyman becomes a contractor with crews. The contractor starts bidding larger jobs. The nonprofit adds locations and programs. The company adds vehicles, payroll, management staff, subcontractors, contracts, funding requirements. And eventually, the insurance side of the business quietly becomes more complicated than the owner realizes. And honestly, that transition usually happens much earlier than people think. So if you're a very small business looking for fast, affordable, simple coverage, I think Next Insurance absolutely deserves consideration. But if your business is growing and you're starting to feel unsure whether your insurance actually matches the complexity of your operations anymore, that's usually the sign you may have outgrown the self checkout lane. And honestly, one of the biggest warning signs that businesses have outgrown the buy it online and forget about approach is when insurance constantly becomes reactive. You're scrambling for certificates, renewals sneak up on you, contracts get reviewed at the last minute, audits become stressful, and suddenly insurance feels like this recurring emergency instead of a structured part of the business. That's actually why I made this next video right here. Stop last minute renewals and create a stress free coverage calendar. Because one of the biggest differences between small reactive businesses and well run growing businesses is having a real system around insurance before problems happen. So click right here and I'll show you exactly how to build that process into your business.